Yes? No? Yeah? All right, enjoy the weather through Wednesday. After Wednesday, temperature's going to drop. Next week it'll be in the 60s. It may even only be up into the 50s. And at night it'll only be 38. And quite that's a freeze. Yeah, changes in the air. So, yeah. It was a beautiful sunrise again this morning. If you're up that early, it's gorgeous. Yeah. Full moon last weekend. It was beautiful. There you go. All right. Jesus replied, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind." This is the first and greatest commandment. The second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. Which brings up the eternal question, who is my neighbor? Not just the person saying this. So we'll word of prayer. Father, thank you so much for the beautiful weekend, and thank you for all the activities we got to take part in, and I pray that we are all finding adjustment to college to be kind of over now, that we're getting into the groove of what it means to be in college, either for the first time or coming back as a sophomore or junior. Father, I pray that this week you would help us all stay focused on so many activities as we prepare on campus for homecoming and all the things that happen with that. And I also pray that we keep in mind that we're here for one purpose, and that is to study, to become a practitioner of the subjects we're studying. Father, I pray that this week we would relax and do the very best we can on our exam, and that way we can enjoy the weekend just a little bit more. Father, we thank you so much for your Son and for these words that he taught us, told us that we are to love you with all our heart, soul, and mind, and that we are to also love our neighbors as ourselves. May we keep that foremost in mind. All right, so today we are going to finish the integumentary system. So we're still finishing about skin. And we're going to look at some pathology today. So get ready. Four quizzes, which I recognize that seems like a lot, but they all, again, as I keep mentioning, they do hinge together. They're all built upon each other. So those are available for you in preparation for Friday. The Connect labs are out there as well, and this week's lab we're going to exam review. So those of you on Wednesday last, because of this, remember, I will be in the lab at about 3 o'clock for as quickly as I can get there. And so if you are a Wednesday lab person and you'd like some assistance in your studying, stop by between 3 to 4 and I will be there. Okay? Sorry about that, but these are required activities. There you go. All right, now remember that means that the exam is now Friday, and these are the instructions for what you must do in preparation for Friday. So remember that we are coming in here, we're bringing our own computer, and you need to test whether you can use lockdown browser. In the test, you take a quiz. When you take the quiz, the questions you get 3 extra credit bonus.
I took the quiz, but it didn't put it through the lockdown.
It didn't what?
It didn't put it through the lockdown browser. Like I even went and did it in the app, but it still didn't put it in it. Like it didn't walk on the screen or anything.
I'm confused. Oh, it wasn't required. Right. Thank you. I get it now. Sorry, I'm not clicking with you. No, it's not required to use lockdown browser for the quiz.
Oh, okay.
But it is, obviously it's telling you, can you use it?
Okay.
Right? And if you're answering yes to that. And if you cannot use it, I need to know. Okay? But I'll be sending out an announcement about that. Yeah, I don't know why they do that. I just do the module that they gave me, plug it in. So you're right, though. It doesn't have numbers. All right. So please make sure you get that done. Please let me know if you cannot use it. Okay? All right. So the conclusion of today, we're going to know the accessory organs of the skin: hair, nails, and glands. We're going to describe functions. And we're going to know basic structural description. We're going to talk about some burn types as well as cancers. And we're going to talk about the general repair process. Okay? So those are the things that we hope to accomplish by the end of the day. Now remember that when we talk about the integumentary system, we're actually talking about two different things here. We are talking about skin, which is epidermis and dermis, plus the hypodermis, which is subcutaneous tissue. That makes up your integument, or your integumentary system. Skin is epidermis and dermis. And remember that epidermis is an epithelial tissue, stratified squamous epithelium. The dermis is two different connective tissues. Now, all of these things that we're seeing down here in the dermis, okay, at least for the glands that you're picturing here, like the gland around the hair itself, the sweat glands, those are derivatives of the epidermis. In other words, they are down growths. The epidermis grows down to form these glands and hairs. The nerves, of course, that's separate. That's just in the dermis. The blood vessels, just in the dermis. And remember that blood vessels supply the epidermis through diffusion. Okay? Now, when we look at the dermis, this upper region, that's the papillary region. That's what gives you fingerprints. The lower region, or deeper region, that's the reticular region. That has more of the connective tissue for support, or collagen fibers, rather, for support of your skin. And then, of course, down here, subcutaneous, that's where we find adipose tissue. We all have it. Okay, it's always deep to the skin like that. So recall that there are 4 layers in all skin. There are 4 layers in all, epidermis, 4 layers in all epidermis. Stratum basal, that's where the cells originate. We call those cells keratinocytes. Stratum spinosum, where we start to have these little connections to each other, spines. Stratum granulosum, where the keratin is starting to form into these little granules, and then, of course, stratum corneum. That's the dead stuff. What's missing? Stratum lucidum in thick skin, right here, between granulosum and corneum. So, those were the things that we were talking about last time. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about markings, okay, skin markings. So there are several things that we all have or might have. Some of you might have a birthmark, which is also called a hemangioma. And a hemangioma is a benign tumor. Remember the term benign. It means that it's not spreading. And it is a tumor, if you will, of dermal capillaries. They cluster together. And cause a discoloration of the skin. Let me pop this picture up. There it is. Isn't that cute? Okay, so there's a birthmark. That's a hemangioma. And there's a whole lot of different kind of theories. You might have heard, that mom ate a lot of strawberries. And that's where the birthmark came from. Anybody heard that? No? Or that's where the stork held the kid. You ever heard that one? Okay. Yeah, I know. There's all these old wives' tales. But it is nothing more than a cluster of capillaries. Now, if it is significant, one can use laser therapy to minimize this discoloration. Okay? So they do in some cases for cosmetic reasons. But for no other reason. It's not dangerous, it's not damaging, it's not going to really cause any significance for the newborn. Okay? like. So it is dermal capillaries. Now freckles, some of you have them, some of you don't. We've discussed that. It's a genetic condition. And you can see that they are obviously very different colors as well, based on the type of melanin that you produce. All right? Some of us produce a more brownish black melanin, and others, as our redhead here in the center, has a little bit more of a copper tone to it. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. And remember that it is sun exposure that causes it. Now, I did say last week that melanocytes are spread pretty much the same through everybody. Right? Square area, the density of melanocytes is about the same. The ones that we've known. The exception to that would be in freckles, where they do cluster together a little bit more. Okay? It's not that you have more because you have freckles, they just are a little bit more clustered. Moles, or nevus, isn't that a better term? What is going on? There's a nevus. Okay? That's a nevus, a mole. Let me pop the description back up. There it is. Elevated patch of melanized skin. Okay? It's an elevated patch of melanized skin. And it is, again, a little bit of genetics that are involved in these. And then we have the friction ridges. Those are your fingertips. Those are the fingerprints. Okay, so those are the things we talked about last time. So remember, just getting rid of epidermis, does that get rid of your fingerprint? No. You have to go all the way through the papillary layer of the dermis, because that's what's creating the fingerprint. So if you're removing fingerprints, it's quite an extensive process. Don't recommend it. Okay, and then flexion creases. We go, oh my gosh, well, there's your fingerprints. And then, there's the flexion creases. I don't know what happened today, okay? I must have duplicated slides somehow. And then those are the flexion creases. And those are also found in your elbows, knees, etc. So those are, again, the type of thing that only comes after you're born. If you were to look at a newborn's hand, it will be relatively smooth with very limited creases in it. And it's only after they really start to do movement in the dry air instead of mom's amniotic fluid that the creases really begin to start showing up. Okay? Fingerprints, yes, you have those when you're born. That's why we take footprints, fingerprints of newborns right away, trying to help them in identification. Okay? But after that, then the creases start. Okay? And then they just keep on going, and then we call them newborns. All right, so there's that hemangioma, and there's the nevus. All right, so on to accessory organs. First one we're going to talk about is hair. Okay, and if you look around the room, quite a bit of difference in hair. Okay, color, straight, curly, what have you. Okay? A whole bunch of differences. And so you actually had 3 different kinds of hair through your lifetime. When you were in utero, you had what is called lanugo. And you can see in this in utero picture that it's a very fine, downy-like hair. And you cluster some material along that hair, and that creates kind of a waterproofing system around you. So the hair's there with this waxy-like material for protection while you're in utero. And some babies are certainly still born with it and have some of the crustiness of that wax still on them when they're born. It goes away relatively quickly. The next hair that you developed is called vellus. And you can see that it's the fine hair, in this case on the forearm, and you all still have it, okay? Just in varying amounts. And the females in the room tend to have it pretty much all over their body, except in specific locations we'll talk about in a second. But it's the fine down here, especially at the female's face. Guys do have a different hair on this. Okay. Because the next one starts to come in after puberty, and that's terminal hair. And terminal hair, you can see, is the pigmented darker hair that is more typical of the male after puberty. Facial, body hair, axillary hair, pubic hair. Well, the female has terminal hair in her armpits, axillary region, and of course pubic hair, groin region as well. Okay? After puberty. But the female is still covered by primarily vellus hair in all other locations. Males, it's intermixed. Okay? You can get rid of it. It's just that the terminal hair is more dominant. And this also includes the hair on top of our head. Okay? Before puberty, your hair was a lot softer and a lot more supple. It's colored, but it's more of a vellus. After puberty, it becomes more of what we call the terminal type. By terminal, we're just meaning that's the last hair you get. It's not going to change again before you die. Now, you may notice that I have vellus hair. Okay? So when you lose your hair, it is still going to have, I'm losing terminal, not vellus. So I have vellus hair on the top of my head. And it's still there. So there you go. All right? I'm just a walking example. All right. So what are the functions of your hair? Why do we have it? Protects the skull a little bit. Okay. Protection against what? A little bit of pressure maybe, and what else? The sun, absolutely. I wear a hat. What else do we have hair for? Heat would not be or retaining heat. Yep. Yep. A nice warm spot right there. Okay. What else? You know, when the little mosquitoes and gnats are flying around, what is the hair doing for you? It's protected, sensory, right? Buzzes and you feel it, just skimming your hair. So there's sensory function for us. Okay. Now, it doesn't show up in us as much, but many animals use hair for a mechanism of expression of emotion. Oh, that's not the right word. What am I trying to say? You know, when the dog gets anxious and angry, hairs go up. You might feel them go up when you get scared, that type of thing. So there is a little bit of expression through your hair as well. And then lastly, it's a sign of sexual development. It's a sign of sexual development. Maybe not necessarily in the face, but obviously in other regions of the body. It tells us that she's going through puberty. She's now sexually mature. In the process of becoming sexually mature. All right, alopecia. Alopecia is a condition of losing hair in clumps. Okay, it is typically a genetic issue. When you're stressed, the hair falls out a little bit more frequently. Then, pattern baldness, duh. Okay. Loss of hair because of genetics, and it tends to follow the same pattern in all of us. We have it, where it goes right down through the center of the crown. And then hirsutism is hair that is unwanted, and in places where you don't want it, and it's growing excessively. Okay, it's growing excessively. I don't mean you just don't like the hair where it's growing. I mean it's growing excessively, and it is more prominently seen. Now you might think about grandma, you know, a little facial hair. That's kind of hirsutism, though not exactly. That's just changing hormones. So why is grandma maybe getting a little mustache growing there? Because she's losing estrogen production, and so her vellus hair is becoming terminal. That's why the mustache starts to stand out. That's what happens. And the opposite happens for the male. Less testosterone, balance starts to shift, and the beard becomes softer and the hair becomes softer over time as well. Cool stuff going on. Just wait, right? That's why I tell you, this is the best of all possible times in your life. Color. There are really only those three colors: blackish brown, blonde, and red. That's it. And then there's some variations of shade in between. So we'll look at these in just a second as to what causes them. All right? And then gray hair as well. So that's a cool picture. That is a close-up picture of the hair erupting through the epidermis. All of that is stratum corneum around it. That is so cool, I think. Okay? And I forgot to mention. So down here, you can see the matrix. This is where the hair is growing, okay, down in this region. And if you were to look at this up close, you would see stratum basal, stratum spinosum, stratum granulosum, and stratum corneum. It's all the shaft, all the way up, is keratin. It's the exact same material as the epidermis. Notice how the epidermis is surrounding the hair. Okay? And there's always a little bit of a blood vessel down here in what we call the dermal papilla. That, when it is no longer present, is what causes the hair to die. Okay? It's the lack of blood supply. Okay? So that's what's causing the loss of hair. So there's that picture of it erupting through the epidermis. And here's the differences in our hair color. So you'll notice that there are two different kinds of melanin. There is what's called eumelanin, which is true melanin, and that's what gives us the brownish black appearance. The other one is called pheomelanin, and you can see that it's more of a goldish color. Okay? And so it is simply a ratio of which one to which. So those of us with brown black hair have way more eumelanin compared to the others. If you are blonde, you have almost all pheomelanin. And if you're a redhead, it's a mixture of the two. And then the hair shape, if it's round, it's straight. If it is oblong, it's wavy or curly. That's all there is in terms of the difference. And then when you get to the gray hair stage, notice there's an air space in the middle, and that's what's reflecting the light, and that's why it's gray. You're still producing some melanin, but you're not producing as much, and you have that air space, and that's what's reflecting light as silver or gray. Things to look forward to. All right. Then, on to our nails. On to our nails. So, there are several things in the nail that I would like you to pay attention to. First of all, is the nail matrix, right in here. This is the region where the nail grows. Okay, so this is like the stratum basal of your epidermis. That's where the cells are undergoing cell division. So it's pushing the nail farther away from the matrix. Okay? And then the nail plate. The nail plate is what you visually see. And it's all keratin. Okay? That same protein as your skin, obviously more dense, way more thick and dense than what is your skin. And then the nail bed is the tissue on which the plate lies. And you are probably well aware, if you've had any issues with your nails, that there's a good blood supply down here. And there's not as much blood supply here, but there certainly are nerve endings, right? In through here. Ouch. And you get something hitting there really, really hard. Now, the other structure is what's called the epimysium. That's the cuticle. That's the little fold of epidermis over the nail bed, or rather over the nail root, nail matrix region. Now, the reason that I bring that up is because some of us have a habit, and I'm one of them. When it dries out, I start pushing it back, right? And then it starts to bleed. That's not good. Okay? I got to keep reminding myself not to do it. But also, if something gets underneath there, like as in bacteria or fungus, then it goes right into this nail root, nail matrix region, and can cause damage to the actual nail. Okay, so when you get a fungus growth, it's down in this region, and it's causing the nail to then die. Okay? So that's why I'm bringing that up. Now, it used to be when nail salons were not regulated, that was a thing 20 years ago. They didn't always sterilize everything the way they're supposed to. That was a thing. So, so if somebody had something on their nails, and then the next person came in and just, never happened to me. I always had good sterilized. Come on, my French tips always look beautiful. And you all know, if you're nursing, what is going to happen to those wonderful, beautiful nails you have. They're going away, unless they're already short, like Sadie's. She just flashed hers up. Okay. I get to keep mine. Okay. The rest you have to cut. All right. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Any questions about the nails? You all have little lunas? Lunas, little half moons. Yeah, it's just where the nail isn't here anymore. Anybody have this in there? Where the nail bed grows out and it's got a curve in it or a dip in it? No? Yeah? Stress. Okay? So in the mitotic activity, it just changed, didn't produce as much cells as it normally would, because it's got that different appearance. Anybody have ridges? They're not smooth, but have little bumpies. Yeah, it's just the way they grow. Good or bad. How about white marks as they grow out away from the nail bed? Nail matrix. Yeah. Those are just calcium deposits. Big deal. Anybody split a bed? Have the nail split? Grows in two pieces all the time? No? Okay. Usually toes, usually runners. You lose your nails all the time. What's that? Yeah, I'm sure they tend to be. Why do they do that to themselves, right? All right. So, what about other organs? Sweat glands. The normal sweat gland is also called a sudoriferous gland, and that's the other name for it. And it is merocrine, primarily. Merocrine is what we use for cooling. So it's a very watery secretion, 99% water, with some things dissolved, like potassium ions, and urea, lactic acid, and ammonia, sodium chloride, and even some drugs. You can collect your sweat and detect what you've been taking. You can also find it in your hair, too. So either way, we can find some things out about it. But notice urea and ammonia, that's why locker rooms tend to stink. pH of your sweat tends to be about 4 to 6, so it's lower than water. And notice also potassium ions and sodium chloride. So after you sweat, it dries, kind of got that with the salt in your skin. If you are experiencing visible wetness that is clammy skin, and it is called diaphoresis. And yes, there are ways to treat that, especially in the axillary region. Laser, like Botox, both of those tend to work temporarily, so that you're not overly sweating. Yes, cooling. So it's evaporation. That's why we get the cooling effect with our sweat. And it evaporates, which doesn't tend to work very well when the humidity is 60-70% outside. It just isn't going to evaporate when it's so humid out. But that's what it's doing. Now, wind, because we have two X chromosomes, and some of the development programs is dependent on the X chromosomes. You turn off one of the X chromosomes and develop. Some cells express one X chromosome, other cells express a different X chromosome. And so you have a discontinuous pattern of sweat glands. In other words, we've all seen calico cats. Their sweat glands are kind of like that. You have some in some places and more in other places and that type of thing. So the expression about women glowing instead of sweating might be true. Women glow and sweat. Kind of nice. Doesn't mean you overheat. Now the other kind is apocrine. So remember, merocrine is a secretion of filtration. Apocrine is a portion of the cell being excreted. These come with puberty. Up until puberty, all you had was merocrine working. After puberty, your apocrine glands began to be more pronounced and functional. And they're found in those locations, the axillary region, groin region, the anal region, and the areolar region. Areola is the pigmented tissue around the nose. These are your scent glands. These are the ones that are creating body odor. My sister, who is an elementary school teacher, said, sure, I'll teach up to 4th grade. After that, they all stink. So I don't want to teach. By the end of 4th grade, they're starting to smell a little. After that, so you respond to stress, you respond to sexual stimulation, that's what's producing this apocrine gland secretion. Now, it is thicker and contains fatty acids. So where does that come in with the smell? It's actually not the material per se that's being secreted, but rather the bacteria that live in those locations begins to use fatty acids as food and generates the smell. Now, some of the secretions are pheromones, okay, and that's the scent that we really don't know is there, but we detect it subconsciously as something that we find attractive. Mosquitoes are really good about that, but we're not as adapted to it. And then bromhydrous body odor of disagreeable nature. And that's all the time. And whether you're washing regularly or not, you're still so a condition that's medically needed to be treated. All right, and then, that's on the next slide. So there's the apocrine, and this area like this is showing us that part of the cell is being released. So it's a portion of the cell. And then this is the merocrine, and that's the duct, which is again telling us it is filtration that's causing that release. The other glands you have are sebaceous glands. Sebaceous glands are associated with all of your terminal hair follicles. And they produce an oily discharge that's called sebum. And it's keeping your hair supple. It has a waxy kind of oily feel to it a little bit. And we spend lots of money to wash it off. And then we spend lots of money to put stuff back on. So I challenge many of you to not wash your hair with anything other than just water, get rid of the dirt, and see whether your hair has a nice shiny appearance. No? You know what? No? I said that a few years back, and a guy actually did it. He didn't wash his hair with anything other than water for 3 weeks. He had gorgeous hair. I mean, it was
shiny and supple and longer than David's, and it just was gorgeous hair. My gosh. Like, wow. It's all good. Getting rid of the scent. You just even the sebum on it, No? What's that? What'd you say? I don't want to know. Okay. What did she say? You'll tell me later. Wow. I don't know. All right. So what else? The luminous glands are only found in the ear canal. They produce the earwax. And what shouldn't you do with a Q-tip? Push it in. And all you're doing is taking the wax and pushing it up against the eardrum. All right? That's not good. Not good for you. Okay? So what does the earwax do? It's meant to do the bottom statement there. Keep the eardrum pliable. Okay? Keep it so that it can vibrate when sound waves hit it. So if you have packed the earwax in there, then it makes it not as vibratable. Vibratable? Sure, we'll go with that. So it's not vibrating as much. Now there's basically two kinds of wax you produce. And it's somewhat related to origins. If you are European in origin, then you produce a more waxy, more fluid type wax. If you are more of an African Asian origin, then you produce a more crumbly wax. Guess which one is going to pack your eardrums more? The waxy one, the one from the Europeans. And so it gets in there and it just plugs up the eardrums. And then they have to go in and scoop it out and squirt alcohol into your ears to clean it out. Not me, my parents. I've missed that gene. Thank goodness. So that's what earwax is all about. And then breasts and mammary glands. I am separating them because there is a difference. Everybody has breasts, because that's just adipose tissue. Functional mammary glands, functional, are only in pregnant lactating women. Guys, do we have mammary glands? Yep, they're just not functional. Okay? Do all the women have mammary glands? Yep. Unless they're lactating and pregnant, they're not functioning either. That's the difference. Okay? They are modified apocrine sweat glands. Remember we said they were found in the areolar region of all of us? And then there are those that are deeper, and those are what become your mammary glands. And they will fluctuate based on hormonal differences. Okay? That includes during the regular menstrual cycle, and then obviously during pregnancy. There's going to be a difference in that tissue. All right. Any questions about the glands? 5 different glands. Merocrine, apocrine, ceruminous, sebaceous, and mammary. 5 different ones that you might be asked. All right. Then, diseases and conditions. These are the cancers. Okay? 3 of them are common. 1 is relatively rare. Basal cell carcinoma, right there. Stratum basal, small shiny bubble. Okay? Tends to be a little bit red and will invade the dermis. It is benign. It is benign. Squamous cell, up there. Stratum spinosum, raised, reddened, scaly. The scaly metastasizes. Okay, so it's malignant. Now, remember what cell is, or what layer rather, of your epidermis undergoes mitosis. Stratum basal. This is originating from stratum spinosum. So whatever has primarily UV light that you've been exposed to is causing the stratum spinosum to begin to be mitotic and growing and dividing and becoming this tumor. Okay? Then malignant melanoma. Malignant melanoma, as we just saw in this previous picture, very much darkened, okay, because it is produced by the melanocytes, so it's very much pigmented. Right? So the melanocytes, usually of an existing mole or freckle, begin to overgrow. And you can notice the difference here. So here's our squamous cell starting in the stratum spinosum. Here's basal cell starting in the basal cell layer. And it can grow down into the dermis. But it is benign. And here is the melanoma. Definitely growing down and is going to metastasize. Now we use the ABCD method, appearance. Is it changing its appearance? Is it changing its border? Is it smooth or round and now becomes wrinkled and different in appearance? Is the color changing? Is the diameter changing? Okay? Those are the things that they look for. Okay? And as a group, your age range and up into the 40s and 50s are having higher rates of melanoma than we've ever seen. Wayne the Tanny Face. Just shrug your shoulder at that? Oh my gosh! Put cream on. You gotta have some color, I guess. We'll get a spray on. I don't know. All right. Now there was one other there that we didn't mention that I'm not asking you to know, and that's the Merkel cell. Okay, the Merkel cell. That, remember, is a tactile cell. So it's nervous tissue that is becoming cancerous in your skin. And suddenly, I can't remember his name. He just died. Oh yeah, Jimmy Buffett. That's the cancer he had. So that's what he died from. All right, and then there's burns. First, second, and third degree. Whoops. First, second, and third degree. First degree, epidermis only. Okay? Second degree, penetrates into the dermis. Third degree, penetrates all the way through. Full thickness. Full thickness. It does not hurt. Third one. You fried the nerve. I mean, fried it. Wrong term. The nerves have been damaged, so there's no feeling. Okay? What do you die from if you have a third-degree burn over significant amounts of your body? Fluid loss. So we got it right the first time. Not infection. Although, of course, you're going to get infections, but fluid loss. So it's a clear indication that your skin is there to protect you from water loss. Because they are losing excessive amounts of fluid. Just cannot retain it. Okay. Now, second degree, as you can see, probably does need some grafting, but the third degree, obviously, you need to graft that. We're doing a whole lot of good things with growing tissues in the lab and being able to use that tissue as replacement. And it's your own skin, it's not somebody else's skin. Okay, we used to use cadaver skin sometimes, pig skin, but we're able to grow your own and replace it.
It's crazy.
Pig skin's crazy, but they're anagenically not too different from us. We can use a lot of things from pigs. You may get a pig heart someday. All right. So, first degree, Fades how long? 10 to 14 days, right? Eventually the epidermis replaces itself. All right, some diseases and conditions. You don't need to write these down. It's not on the exam. That's about the worst case of acne. Ooh, dermatitis. What happened to this poor little kid? What do we call that? Diaper rash. Okay? So, contact dermatitis. Right? The diaper was left on too long and it was wet. So what's this kid getting dermatitis from? Licking his lips. Just constantly licking. Same thing. Dries out, keeps it wet, dries out, and it causes the skin to respond. Rosacea is capillaries that are moving towards the surface and turning the skin red. Seborrheic dermatitis. Now this is with the sebum glands, or the sebaceous glands. They are beginning to secrete excessively. And then impetigo. What's the causative agent of impetigo? Microbiologist. Have you got there yet? Staphylococcus aureus. Okay, so skin, a normal bacteria that is causing this situation. Now, if your roommate gets that on their skin, like around their lips, don't touch anything they are touching. It's highly dangerous. And a lot of kids in the daycare get impetigo. And then we wound heal by just applying the blood, and we start to replace the skin, and it cleans it. Okay? There we go.